So I've officially been doing pixel art for a little over 30 days now. In this video, we're going to be talking about what I've learned so far through my journey with pixel art, and we're going to do that while we draw this drawing behind me on the screen. So first and foremost, I think the biggest thing I learned when doing pixel art is it really helped me flesh out my skills in color and composition. Both of these things are so important in pixel art, particularly with color, like values and having good contrast between your different tones of color in your illustrations or drawings is super important. I mean, even down to like 2-color drawings where it's just like white and black or something very simplistic like that. Because pixel art is so simple, if you make an error or you don't make things readable enough, it's very easy to make the mistake of making things not readable enough if you don't have high enough contrast in your colors. It's also, with going back to composition, very easy to mess that up as well. I think it's better to kind of lean towards more graphic compositions. I think pixel art, because like I said, it's simple by nature and, one pixel can make the biggest difference, is, to kind of lean into very, not necessarily simple's probably the wrong word, but more like easy to read compositions. Like you want to pretty clearly define where your focal points are and things like that. There's obviously nuance in there, and, the more skilled you are with the medium, I'm sure the more you can kind of push and pull those types of things. But just starting out in it, I've noticed those are probably the most unforgiving parts of it, is you really want to have your color and your compositions and things like silhouette of characters really nailed down, because it's very easy to make things look muddy or unreadable. Kind of going off that, I kind of want to talk about like switching mediums here. Off camera, I still do line art and I still am, drawing and sketching and all that stuff. I'm not like just solely focused on pixel art in my own private, art life. But I switch between mediums a lot. I explore a lot, and I have explored a lot. And I think the biggest thing I've learned from all those explorations, pixel art included, is that they all refine your skills as an artist. I think there's not a single time where I've jumped medium or even jumped art form where I've learned something that's come back and fed back into the others, even like video into illustration. It's all art and it all kind of helps each other. So if you're someone that's kind of feeling stuck in a medium or stuck with your artwork right now, maybe you're feeling a little bit burnt out, man, just take a break and explore. A lot of the time, the summers and probably a good period of every season, I, in my own personal time, take time to explore a different medium. In periods on this channel, I think I did watercolor for a couple weeks, and it doesn't have to be anything long, it doesn't have to be like a month worth of exploration, but just something to change your pace, to get out of kind of the boredom repetitiveness. I've noticed is very good for your artistic health. The next thing is, pixel art is just as difficult as regular 2D art. It is 2D art. It's just, a different medium of 2D art. There are definitely parts of it that are easier. It is simple by nature, but that doesn't mean it's easy, right? Because kind of going back to the color and contrast, because things are so simple, it makes your mistakes very, very prevalent. So the medium itself is a limitation naturally, and all mediums have limitations, but I would say pixel art, more than the others that I've experienced, or that I have experience with, between, digital, I would say marker and watercolor as like my prime 3, and obviously inking as well. Pixel art in and of itself just is limitation kind of personified, which in my opinion, breeds creativity. So because it kind of forces you into a corner a little bit, and you kind of, through your pixeling skills, have to kind of dig your way out of it every time, which is kind of something I really, really enjoy about it. And all art forms are like this. I think I said this in a past video, but it's kind of like solving a puzzle as you go. And it's very much feels that way. It's very technical and very like, dot by dot, pixel by pixel. But because of that, it really makes you think, and every decision is very, or should be very thought out and methodical. And I think that's definitely something I'm going to bring into like my line art, for example, where, you can kind of flub and cheat stuff a bit more in line art, and I feel like there's not as much of that in pixel art. There's obviously a bit more representation of forms in pixel art, but not so much like cheating them or like throwing a line, that kind of stuff. Hopefully that makes sense. In terms of the best apps I found to get into pixel art, I would say there's two great ones, and then 2 I would say honorable mentions that I just don't have One of them I have a little bit of experience with, the other I have no experience with. But I would say the two best that I've found are Picsquare on the iPad. This one is $20. Both of these are $20. And then Sprite also $20. These are dedicated pixel art programs, and I feel, at least from my own experience with it, that a dedicated program to the medium is probably the best way to go, at least to get your feet wet and to get started with it. I'm sure once you get super comfortable with it, you can jump over to like the other two, which is Photoshop and Procreate, a bit more easily. Those two programs, Sprite and Picsquare, kind of force you to do pixel art, right? Because they are pixel art programs. So you don't have as many options to kind of do other stuff. And I feel like it kind of just limits you in a way where you're just doing pixel art, right? You don't have to ask a ton of questions about like canvas size, stuff like that. It kind of starts you off in a good spot. Whereas with something like Procreate, which I've tried in the past back in 2024, when I first initially like teased myself with pixel art for like a couple weeks, you kind of have to force Procreate to work for pixel art for you. I know people do use Photoshop for pixel art. Like, for example, there's a great channel, Brandon James Greer, who's making a game, I think, right now called Pedal Runner. I don't know him, of course, but he makes obviously great pixel art. And he uses Photoshop, it seems. So, you can certainly use Photoshop or whatever program you wish to make pixel art, I'm sure. But for my learning experience and just getting into the medium, I found Sprite and Picsquare the best jumping off points. And this is obviously like, not sponsored or anything. I have no correlation with these companies. In terms of like your personal artistic skill set and getting into pixel art, I highly recommend, as with any medium, this is my own personal, I guess, take. You should learn traditional art first, at least to some degree, at least till you feel comfortable. Just because when you get into digital work, you have just so many options for color, so many options for, undoing, things like that. I think doing traditional work, which really builds confidence and really builds like a good foundation of skill. So, there's obviously, if you want to do pixel art, go do pixel art. And there's obviously people that have just started with pixel art and stuck with it and they're doing pixel art. So if you just want to do this medium, go do it, right? But in terms of like having a good base, and you really kind of, I guess, in my opinion, want to set yourself up well, starting with traditional, at least your foundational fundamentals. I highly recommend getting those traditionally, or very, very simply digitally, where you're like kind of not undoing a ton. It's okay to make mistakes in this period if you're just starting out. Don't worry about failure, that kind of stuff. Just make art and not worry about the result, right? And just have fun. Have fun making the things. And you should really do that the whole time anyway. And I think, for me personally, kind of focusing this back on me, the biggest thing I learned with this medium is it kind of forced me to have fun with my art. I feel like so much of my early artistic journey was focused on learning things the way kind of people tell you to do online, because I am a self-taught artist with drawing and illustration. So it was it's kind of been a bit of an escape from that for me, where I'm just kind of having fun, making stuff, not worrying about the result too much. I want to make things good and make things well, but I don't really care if like, I'm just having fun. It's kind of helping me kind of be nostalgic and explore, like the Game Boy vibes of pixel art, which is, a whole genre on YouTube now of like people in their 30s like me drinking coffee and talking about games, which I've totally kind of fallen into that trap as well in terms of my own viewership of YouTube. But it kind of has that nostalgic vibe for me. And, it's really just reminded me that, I make art because I enjoy it. And, I think it's kind of forced me and gotten me to a good place with my artwork and YouTube by extension, just creativity for myself in general, where I just want to have fun. And so I'm going to do that, and I hope you stay tuned for what's next.